Hi friends, Tracy here from the Sewing Channel. Boy, do I have a sweet treat for you today. Let me introduce to you my ScrapBee Summer Citrus Quilt. Now I need to go finish things up on this quilt so I can meet you in the end and it'll all be finished. So you know what's next. Enough talking already, let's get busy. In my Scrappy Citrus quilt, I wanted grapefruits, oranges, lemons, and limes. I tried to keep the scale right on all of the fruit here. I knew that a grapefruit was larger than an orange, and an orange was larger than a lemon, and a lemon larger than a lime, right? I'm going to show you on camera how I make the lime. It's really easy. It's just a few pieces. I will pop up on the screen all of the measurements that it took to make the fruits. Also in my quilt today, I wanted some slices. Here you can see my grapefruit slice, my lemon slice, and of course my lime slice. And I will show you on camera how I'm going to make the orange slice. I have measurements for the slices as well, and they're on the screen. So go ahead and screenshot those. Keep those on your phone for when you're ready to make a citrusy summer quilt. My little lime starts out with a green 3.5-inch square piece of fabric. You can see right here with my lemon that I only snowballed 2 sides of the lemon because we want to give it that pointy end and a pointy top. That's sort of what a lemon looks like, and that's also what a lime kind of looks like, right? Kind of. You can see with my orange and my grapefruit, I had to snowball all 4 sides to give it that more round effect. So that's the difference in those fruits. For my lime, I'm going to need 2 low volume fabrics at 1.5 inches square. Now instead of marking these little snowball squares, I'm going to simply fold them in half. Take my iron and press that crease in there. What that crease does is help me when I take this to the sewing machine. I'm going to sew right along that creased area instead of having to take a pencil and draw all the lines on it. And you'll want to do that with both pieces. Next, you'll want to take opposite sides of this square, corner to corner, and put those pieces folded on that corner there and on this corner here so that they are opposite each other. Whoops, I'm going to turn this one around. You can see here, hopefully, that I fussy cut that tiny bee out so that when it's folded, it's facing outward. So when we sew it onto our little square block, it's going to look like we have little bees buzzing all around our lime. You can take and pin these on, or you can take some clear drying glue, a glue stick, any glue stick will do. And in this area, make sure that it covers the entire corner area. Lift that up and lift that up and put a few glue marks right there and then push that down. Flip this way. Make sure that your corner is covered all around so that you don't see any green there. Flip this up, hold that, flip that up, put a few glue marks there, flip just that bottom half back down, press that on real good. And now when you take this to the sewing machine, you are simply going to sew right along that crease area. You want to err toward the side of caution here because one of 2 things can happen when you snowball a block. You can sew right on the line thinking you're on the line and you actually really weren't. You were just off a little bit, and so now guess what? Your coverage is more like wonky like that, or it could be that your coverage is not enough and you'd be shy a little bit there. The way I combat that is when I flip this up and take this to the sewing machine, I am going to sew right a thread or 2 off to the side of where that crease is. So I'm going to be sewing like a thread or two right along that crease. It's going to be the side of the crease that is toward the point here. And I'm going to do that on both of these. So you can see here, both of those little snowball corners are definitely glued down on there. And hopefully you can see that cute little bee right there. Isn't he cute? Open this flap up. Now my eyes are not that good. I'm getting older and I know it, but I can totally see that crease right there. So I'm good with that. Some of you may still need to make that line with a pencil or something, and that's okay too. This is where I'm going to sew right alongside of where that crease is. Only 1 or 2 threads though. Don't get too carried away here. I'm going to take my time. Now we're going to turn toward this one, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to sew a couple threads to the right of that crease. Typically you don't have to undo where it's glued. I just wanted to show you there where that was. Then what you're going to do is take and cut these 2 pieces off because we don't want all this bulk in our quilt. We want to stay away from that line about 1/4 inch up this way, and you can do this with your rotary cutter if you'd like. If not, just eyeball it, you'll be fine, and then you'll just press that down. Turn to this one and we will cut this off about 1/4 inch from that line. Then we can see our little bee there. Isn't he darling? Let's just give this a press. So when I lay my ruler down, we are 3.5 by 3.5, which that's exactly what we should be at. Now you might notice some edges right there, and you may need to cut some of these off. Sometimes when we press, the fabric gets distorted a little bit, and we'll need to compensate by taking some of this off so that this does not get inside of our quilt. When we go to connect, we want everything to connect straight. So I can see a little bit peeking out there, so I'll just slice that off. Just a little bit, not much. Now before we can add any more onto this block, we need to make our leaves for this block. Now you may have a different way of making a leaf, and you totally can use whatever method you want to. For this one, I made the little bow tie leaves on all of the fruits. I just thought they were cute. I angled them here off to the sides, and you can place them either way on your quilt, which gives more interest to the quilt. For the leaf here on the lime, these are 1 3/4 inches square each, a low volume print or white, and then any type scrap green that you have laying around. Here we are going to put right sides together. And for this one, we are going to draw a line. Corner to corner, your ruler, corner to corner, put a line. And then on this one, you are going to sew 1/4 inch on one side and sew 1/4 inch on the other side. So you'll have 2 lines of stitching here. On my sewing machine, I have a scant 1/4 inch foot on mine. My 1/4 inches tend to be smaller than the norm, and that's the way that I prefer it anyway, so I'm glad that this foot came on my machine. You can see there, both sides have been sewn down right next to that middle line. Now what you'll do is take your ruler and line it right up on that line, and then slice this right in half, following the line that you made with your pencil. Take and open the seams. That's what I did on mine anyways. You don't have to open if you don't want to, but since I free motion quilt my quilts, I tend to open every seam that can be open, that makes sense in my quilt, so that way everything lays nice and flat when I go to free motion quilt it. So I'm first going to give that back a press open and then flip it. Then I'm going to square these little guys up. You see that diagonal line on your ruler, you're going to lay it on your diagonal line here on your block. And we are going to square this up to 1 1/4 inches. You can see right there, 1 1/4, 1 1/4 here, all the way down, and then slice it. And all the while I'm making sure that my diagonal is correct on my ruler, on my block. If I lay this one here, and then I lay this one here, I have that bow tie effect going on. The square right here will be another 1 1/4 inch square pieces of fabric, and then the rest here I will add on with my low volume. We have the main portion of our lime cut out, and we have our bow tie leaf all set to go. Next, I know I'm going to need a 1 1/4 inch square piece to go in between that bow tie for the lime and the lemon too. When you go to make your leaves for the grapefruit and the orange, just keep in mind that all that is a half square triangle. That's it. It's important to note that you won't need that little square filler in between that bow tie for the grapefruit and for the orange, because you can see here it's just the 2 half square triangles set like that. Whoop! Oh my goodness, I lost it. It's just the 2 half square triangles, and you will set them in the row, and you will line them up right in the center of your fruit. I'll line it up here so maybe you can see. Oh, whoops, wait a minute. It goes like that. I'll need 2 strips to finish out this block. So I know I already need 1 1/4 inches wide, so I'm just gonna find some strips in here that I have already that could possibly make the cut. And we can always just trim off whatever excess we don't want to. Let me get about 3 inches worth, just to be safe. I'm going to cut in 1 1/4 inch by about 3 inches. So I think that'll fit there. That's perfect. And let me grab another low volume here. So the first thing I'm going to sew together is this leaf and this piece right here. Now this is where things can get mixed up a little bit, so be careful. And I'm going to continue on with my scant 1/4 inch. And I'm going to press it open as I sew it, because everything is right here. Lay it back down, this one and this one, and connect it. And we'll open that seam. So now we're left with that. We are going to take this one here, lift up, and connect it to here. And we're just going to line it up. For this one, it makes more sense to fold this down this way and press it. Like I said, it's whatever makes sense at the moment. Just so you know, this is what I did in some of my mock-ups. I accidentally sewed it like that, which isn't too bad either, but I just didn't care for that stem. It reminded me too much of like a pear stem or something, so yeah, no. So that's how I know that you can totally mess that leaf up. So now I'm going to add this little square to this strip right here, right sides together. I'm not back stitching on these tiny pieces because I'm sewing them together right away and there's no need to. So here I'm going to take and open this up. So now hopefully you can see I'm going to put right sides together here, whoop, and sew a 1/4 inch down. And for this one as well, I'm going to push it that way. Keep your little spritzer close by and you can just give your block a little spritz there. It just helps to loosen up that seam just enough to get it flat. Too much water and too much steam though, you'll be shrinking some fabric and you don't want to do that. Okay, now I'm going to just trim this block. Isn't that little lime just so cute? We're not done with it though. After I made each separate fruit, I then went ahead and did that log cabin crumb quilting effect that we did on that blue quilt, if you remember a few videos back. I just love the look of how we block everything in, and then we can go and lay them all up on the design board once we have that initial piecing around it and we can see what needs to be filled in next. But first, let's border this in. So you can see here that I've taken whatever size, it doesn't even matter the size width of your strip. You can connect it to another scrap, doesn't matter. Anything goes in this quilt. We're essentially using this as like a focal point and then embellishing around it in all of the low volume prints. It's gonna look so good when it's done, trust me. So this strip right here is all one color, so to speak. So we're gonna use that. Now since I already have like low volume on this side and low volume on that side, I'm then going to catch this side of the lime. So I just kind of lay out what I have, and if it's really long like this, I will cut across. Throw this back in the pile. Put right sides together and sew a 1/4 inch. Come over here, flip that and press. I'm going to trim after every single piece that I add on, just because that helps me to know that I am nicely squared up. Now what I'm looking at here is all the lines on this block already to make sure that all of my lines are straight everywhere and everything is boxed in perfectly. And once I have that, I'm going to slice it. How about we do something like that? So even though these two pieces are connected together and they're whatever width, I don't even know, I don't care, I don't measure. I'm going to take it and flip it right sides together. The only thing you want to keep in mind is take note of where your seams are, of where you're going to be connecting it. And the seam here is right here. You want to line it up in an area that does not have a seam. This is going to keep the bulk way down in our quilt. So here's what we have so far. Now it's time to add a piece here and then here. So for this one, I'm going to make sure that that seam is not going to come close to any of the other seams. Flip it right sides. And the bigger your block gets, you want to have another ruler close by that will give you that coverage that you need. So here I have this really cute strip that I had put together earlier, and it has some little bees in it, and it actually has some words on it that says be grateful. So I think I'm going to add this in to this block right here. And you can do this with some fussy cut bees, and I'll show you that later how I've done that. Not only did I have this fabric that had the writing on it, I also had a bunch of different bee fabrics where it had just loner bees and different things that I could fussy cut. And so I wanted to share with you that you can do that as well. And so I have a ton of little bees that I'm going to be placing throughout this quilt, and I think it's going to be really cute. So I think we're going to add it right here, and I'm going to be mindful of those seams. And then I'm going to, well, let's see though, are we going to get the words in? Yeah, I think we're going to make it. And flip it. And here you have your cute little lime with a few bees that want to join the party. A huge thank you to my newest supporters, Carmel K, someone, yes, someone is back, Jin Wins, Deb B, Lisa, Stella, Maria. Thank you so much. Because of all of the kind support that I've received for the sewing channel, I was able to obtain new audio equipment. Tell me down in the comments what you all think. It's about time, right? Thank you so much. Now let's make some slices of an orange. These measurements will yield you 2 separate slices in the same color, but they're going to have the same fabric. So you may want to set some aside and mix some up with another grouping that you make. It's totally up to you. That's what I did, but I love variety. So if it doesn't bother you to have 2 exact identical slices in your quilt, then this would work perfect for you. For the orange slices, you will need 8 orange squares at 3.5 inches each. Pair up all of those 8 slices so that you have 4 that are right sides together. Once you have those 4 piles all paired up, so you'll have 4 piles but 8 pieces all together. Once you have them all paired up, take your ruler corner to corner and make a line with your pencil. What you'll do is just like last time, sew a 1/4 inch away from that line on both sides. Next, take your ruler and your rotary cutter and slice directly on that line that you made. You should have 2 identical pieces, although mine, you see with the bees there, they're kind of, you know, this one's kind of off because I'm not going to be using that one though. Take 1 whole set, you should have 4 now. Open them up and press the seam open. Once you press open all of the seams on your blocks, then you're going to trim them up to 3 inches square. Following that diagonal line like before. This one I have quite a bit to cut off compared to the other ones that I made. You should have 4 half square triangles, all in the same color, orange. Now just put them in color order that you would like to see them on your quilt. Typically, when I paired mine together, I went with a light and a dark. So that way, when I went to finalize that slice, it was sort of in that light, dark pattern. So you want all of the points going toward the middle. So if you put it like that, that would be wrong. So you want to make sure that you have all 4 corners with all fabrics on them. So you have 8 different fabrics there in the center. Right sides together, sew, right sides together, sew, and then connect those together. And right here, we'll just give it a press open. real quick. Make sure that you start at that tip and work down the right side that you're supposed to work down. I've sewn it the opposite way too, so be careful. We'll open that up and press the seam open. And then you will flip these two together, find the center. Not too bad, not too bad. They all meet up. And then we will open the seams on this one as well. I'm going to spritz this with water. Remember what I said about water? A very light spritz, and that will loosen everything up to lay nice and flat in the moment. And then it will just dry like that, and that's good. That's what we want. And there you have your orange slice. I will lay my ruler down just to make sure that nothing is peeking out weird, like nothing got distorted. Might be a few stray threads that you may need to cut. But all in all, you should end up with a 5.5 inch block. To snowball our orange slice in, you need 1 3/4 inch squares, and you need 4 of them in the low volume. Just like last time, you're going to take that square and fold it right in half and give it that memory crease right in the center. We're going to take our handy glue, lay that down so that there is full coverage. We can see there's no orange peeking out. We're going to open it up once and then open that back end up. Lay that down, make sure I don't see any orange peeking out. Lift up once, and then hold that here and lift up here and add that glue on. Press that down firm. You're going to make sure that there's full coverage. Lift up here. Oop. Add the glue and then flip this one back. Hold, lift, glue, press. Then you're going to bring it over to your sewing machine and sew right next to that line like we did before, only about 1 or 2 threads to the right. Then you're going to take and press it all down. Open this up and about 1/4 inch to the right of where that thread is. Clip that excess off. Now let's recheck our 5.5. Because everything is cut on the bias, some stuff can really get distorted at this point. So you can see there, look at that big chunk that needs to come off there. So you just hold it steady and slice. I love these little slices. They just look so yummy. It makes me hungry for an orange. How about you? Now I'm going to bring in the low volume prints again, and we are going to border this real quick so that way it has a good start. So this one here, I have one big long piece, and I'm going to just add this on one side real quick. Using lines within the block, I'm going to make sure that everything has a good angle on it and then slice that off. The other side looks good already, so let's see here. And then I can just grab from whatever here. These two pieces here look good. I think what I'll do is add like that. And again, make sure that your seams are not bulking up. Line it up and sew it on. Even scraps like this that I'm just grabbing out of there, I'm checking that they're long enough so that they cover it, and I can just cut some of this excess off so I don't have to take that to the sewing machine with me. Just take this, flip it right sides together, and sew that piece on, and then I'll trim it up. I'll see how far over it goes here and here. And we need one more strip here. I used a ton of scraps up on this quilt. Okay, here, this long one here. Can't tell which side the dots are on. I think it's just going to make it. Then we'll trim this one up. So here we have log cabined this orange slice in. What I've done is just taken all of my fruit pieces, all of my citrus, and place it up on my design wall. And you can see they've already been framed in with that log cabin design, and we're going to continue with that log cabin design around each of them, giving them that ultimate scrappy look. It's one of my most favorite ways to scrappy quilt. I've done my best as far as placement of color, just making sure that, you know, I didn't have two colors right next to each other, even though these are both kind of an orange color. This is actually the grapefruit. It does have some pink in it. Only I'll know that probably, but so they are similar, but I tried every which way, and this is the best that I could come up with. I want you to take note over here, this area right here. I had already taken a bunch of my bee fabric and sewn them into strips. So that way I'll have all sorts of little bees everywhere on this quilt, making it so much fun. Every quilt is so different for me. So for this quilt, I've decided I'm going to kind of keep them in rows of chunks. So this one will probably be in the second row. I'm going to try and scrappy sew this top row together. But the first thing I'm going to do is come over here and see what strips I have that I've made up already. Like this one has a cute little bee right there. So will that be long enough? No, it won't be, but that's okay because I will add to that and then connect it. And then if this one is going to be next, I need to find a piece that fits up top there. So this one right here maybe. And again, that one I'll have to add a little bit more on top, and that's okay. I have some skinnier pieces too. Now see, once I'm seeing this together, how I'm going to put it together, I can probably sew this onto this first, trim it, then take this big piece and sew it to this piece, and then trim it, and then add yet this piece that may or may not work. I don't think it'll work. Well, maybe once those are sewn together, and add this piece up there, or grab another skinny one to fit the top. So I hope you can understand that thought process. It's a little weird, but oh my gosh, and I just dropped all my blocks. Okay. So let me get that part sewn up, and I'll show you what that looks like. So hopefully you can see right here where I've connected this together. Let me take it down so you can see a little bit better. So it was just a matter of connecting a couple blocks together and then adding to that block and then adding to this block, since this block was the biggest out of all of them that I was connecting at the moment. Hope that makes some sense. I don't know. Does it? Let me know in the comments. Although I think you will let me know if it doesn't, right? Okay, now to add in these three. So we're going to have to add in chunks. Chunks. If that's the top, I may need to add some up there. I don't know yet. Okay. So these are going to be about this far apart, and I don't want it to be even with any of these things. So yeah, I think that'll work. As you can see, all my blocks have fallen to the floor. Oh my word, I hope I can remember where I put them. I am going to put a thin border, I think, on the sides and then one on the top and bottom. So this one, we want it to be about, I'd say almost 68, 69 wide. Okay, so I think this is good right here. Whatever width is in there. So we'll go with that. So this one here, we will, let's see if that fits. Yeah, it does. We'll have to add a little bit more to the bottom there. This one, may be able to add that right there. Maybe if we trim some of that off, or if we turn this one. We can add that bee fabric up there. That's cute. Maybe that right there. This one I could cut off, or maybe it's enough, I don't know. So we'll see. We'll try that. That one's cute with a little beehive right there. So I'll cut some low volumes to go in those slots, and I'll sew those together, and we'll see what that looks like as one big row. Okay, so I've done a lot during the break since the last segment. I did fill in all of that for the first row. I still need to put in a strip right here and then connect this together. And then I did start to fill in this second area here. You can see where I still need to fill in strips, and I still need to add in a lot where there are gaps. But so far so good. I have used a lot of my bee fabric already, so I'm probably going to have to cut some more strips and connect them, so that way I'll be ready for the rest of this quilt. I am loving it so far. I think the bees are really what's going to tie this quilt all in with the citrus. And I have to tell you, the bees, they were an afterthought, really. I saw some bee fabric in my stash, and I thought, well, bees like stuff like this, right? Usually there's bees swarming around somewhere where there's oranges and such. So that's what gave me the idea to add and incorporate those bees into this quilt. I'm so glad I did. It adds a ton of color so far that it wouldn't have had unless I added them. All right, so I wanted to show you my progress so far. So I have that first row all done, and then I have positioned all of the other rows here. This bottom row I'm not real happy with, so by the time we get there, things definitely may change. I've used all of the bee strips almost up that I had cut ahead of time. So I'm going to need to do that, but I wanted to show you real quick the progress. Okay, see you in the future. Check out my progress here. Oh my word, I've been working on this all afternoon, and I've got the first and the second row here is all connected. I've got all of my patchwork done around the fruits on the third row, and you can see there I've kind of put my fourth row in different spots, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with those ones. That row, I still don't really care for it. I'm not sure what it would take for me to really like it, but maybe once it's all done, I don't know. Looking good. I'll report back in when I get that bottom row done. Real quick, after I shut the camera off, oops, it just fell. But anyways, you get the idea. I did switch that big one over and swapped for the little one, and I like it so much better. Wait, let me go hang it up. Hold on. I just like the placement so much better, so we're gonna go with that. I just didn't want all of that orange congested right there, I guess, and I was trying to really even it all out, but I do like this placement much better. Let me know if you agree. This is where I'm at so far. Oh my word. That was a tough one, that bottom row, but I ended up getting it done and I like it. There are 4 different rows up on my design wall. You can't see this one. It looks like it's connected, but it's not right there. So I'm going to go ahead and connect all these together, add the border on. We'll get it all sandwiched up. I'm going to free motion quilt some new to me designs, and they are really pretty. I can't wait for y'all to see them. Okay, friends, who can tell me why I'm mad as a hornet right now? So I went to sew horizontally across there, and as you can see, I sewed them facing each other, which was not the orientation I wanted. So yeah, I'm going to have to unpick this and re-sew it back on. So yeah, no, I'm not going to keep it like this, if anybody's wondering. No. So I didn't notice until after I had pressed it, but luckily I did not trim anything yet, so we're good there. So let me go and unpick and re-sew. Yep, it happens. So one of the worst things that you can do is sew it on wrong on your very last seam. And you see here, I'm going to have a lot of openings here, and I'm going to have to fix all of that too. It's a bummer for sure, but if I want to get this quilt finished, then I will follow through and unpick and sew all of those other ones back up, because you know, these ones right here, I cannot let that go. I mean, that's way down past 1/4 inch, so I'm going to be fixing a lot first before I even do that. There's no way around it, honestly. And this, I don't know why it's wanting to be stubborn. This is a newer picker, so I don't know why it's being stubborn. I'm trying really hard not to cut my quilt top. I do have a few of those razors that I could pull out, but I don't know. Look at. But I figured you might as well see me unpick. Why not, right? Oh my goodness. It's a wreck, guys. It's a train wreck. If you didn't know, you should always put the ball down in, not the poker, because this will ensure that you're not ripping your fabric on the bottom. Now, I do go in sometimes just if it's being stubborn, and I'll grab a few stitches like that just to get it going, and then reinsert the ball back in. There we go. We got a fast run there. I like those ones. And typically how I do it, I will hold here with tension and then push that through, so that way I'm kind of getting it from both ends. But you have to be careful if you do that, because you may pull one way and not the other, and you know, it's no fun. No fun. This is no fun at all for me. This is probably the worst part in quilting, if you ask me, but nobody asked me. But I'm sure you can all agree. I'm even holding this down right here, and yeah. We are at the end, and I do backstitch here, so I am going to go in with the pointy and just make sure that I catch those stitches. All right, so I will go and fix all this and sew it right. So here's the fix. You just take it and pinch just those ends only together. Make sure that everything is as even as it can be right there. And you'll have to maneuver around a seam right here that's been sewn down, which is no biggie really. If you just pinch that very end and line up your needle a few stitches back from where it initially came undone, you're going to go forward, and then I go back, finish it up, and I am going to back stitch one and tie it off. See? And it won't come apart this time, trust me. But I don't have to unpick it again, but if I had to, it's not going to come apart. And the only reason why it came apart the first time was because those are cut edges, so it wouldn't have mattered if I back stitched to begin with anyways. So yeah. Again, you're just going to pinch and slide it under there, go back a few stitches from where you were, go forward, back, finish it out, and go back one and tie off. If you're scrap quilting like me, a lot of times you'll end up with ends, sides that just don't match up. So we need to make everything even. So what I do is I find the shortest piece on the side, and this is the side of the quilt here. Hopefully you can see right here when I line this up that this piece is definitely shorter on the side than this piece. So this is the shortest piece. So this is the piece that we want to line our entire side up with. You will want to make sure that you have your biggest ruler. That just helps us to not only cut the fabric in a long stretch, but it also helps keep this fabric down with the ruler because of the weight of it. So I'm going to line up here on my ruler, and I'm going to line up with a line in here on one of my seams, and you can see right along there it lines up perfectly. And then I'm going to just cut. I'll pull down, I'll line up again, and I will check in here to make sure that I'm lining up with a seam somewhere within the quilt itself. That looks good. Once you have it, go ahead and slice. Line up this last little bit and slice. Flip it around and do the other side. So I wanted to share my setup with you today. It's a little different than how I've set up before. So you can see my free motion quilting table right here. What I did is take my height adjustable table here and raised it to meet this table so that it gives me almost like a drop-in effect with my free motion quilting. As always, up here I have a hook, and then I have my bar right here where my twill tape is hooked to with binder clips on the end. And you can see one hanging there and there. That just keeps the drag up off of my table. I've talked about that before several times, so I'm not going to go into that now, but you can check my last couple videos to see how that actually all helps with the drag. You can see my favorite machine right here, my Juki, is turned on its side, and it has that extra large free motion quilting table that goes around it. So that's my setup for today, and there's my quilt basted and ready to go. Here are all the items that I keep close by: my curved snips, my pointy metal tweezers, my oil for my machine, a cleaning swab, my gardening grippy gloves from the dollar store, and of course my stack of bobbins that I just know I'm going to go through, probably double that. What I've done here is cut some 1 3/4 inch binding for this quilt. I've taken and folded a 1/2 inch over on one side. I glue basted it with a glue stick, just any old glue stick will do. And then I attach it on the wrong side of my quilt. I'm using my compensating presser foot from Juki. It has this chunk right here that lines up along the edge of a thicker piece of fabric, like a quilt sandwich, and it butts right up against there and sews a perfect 1/4 inch all the way around. So that's what I'm using to begin with on the back here. You see the corners coming up here in a second. What I'm going to do is keep sewing that 1/4 inch all the way until I get up to where that point is at a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to sew down. Stop. I don't think you can really see, but I'm just a 1/4 inch from that corner. What I'm going to do next is lift up my presser. See, my presser foot's down. I'm going to lift it up. I'm going to pivot so that that corner is looking right at me in a perfect V shape. And then I'm going to put my presser foot back down and I'm going to sew straight off that edge at an angle. Let me show you. That thread is coming right off of the corner at a 45-degree angle, right in that area, and then just sew right off of it. It's okay. You're going to totally take this out of your sewing machine, out from underneath your needle, and then you're looking at it like this, right? All you're going to do to miter this corner is lift this piece up, this tail that you have right here, fold it this way. What I'm looking for is a straight edge all along here, okay? And then I'm going to just go like that. Let me show you again. You've sewn off that 45-degree angle. You're going to lift this piece up and over. It automatically goes in that 45-degree angle if you keep this part straight all along here. Take your finger, press right there. Make sure that's straight though first. And then flip this piece back over while still pinching that piece. You can slip your finger under there too and hold it. Because what you're looking for now, while you're holding this at a 45-degree angle right here, it's already sewn in, so you really don't have to do much except just pinch it down. Lift this back this way. And then make sure that that fold is right along there so that it's nice and tight in there just along the edges. In that corner right there. Pinch that with this finger. Make sure that this part is straight now. And so you'll just lay that straight. You can put a pin there if you want or something, but I don't typically. I just pinch it down with my fingers, pivot like this, go back underneath my sewing machine at that 1/4 inch along the edge there with my presser foot, and continue sewing. Let me show you real quick what it looks like. So you can see here, that's been sewn. See how that's tucked in there? That's that initial seam we made. We came up to it, made the 45, we folded it over, and then continued sewing. Now watch this. When I take this and go like this, look at that. That is pure magic right there. That's a perfect 45-degree angle. So now when I go to turn this, I'm going to look over here first and find out which side is the crease open to. So I'm going to make sure that this side is the side where the crease is open to, so that they're on opposite sides. You're going to take and fold over, pinch it, and fold that over. And you end up with a perfect mitered corner every time. Now with this particular binding, the size that we made, we will have more on the front than we will the back, and that's perfectly okay with me. I actually quite like it. So let me get this finished up now that you know how to do that. Here, now I've switched to my regular sewing foot. I put my magnetic guide here, and now I'm going to sew on the top part of the quilt, tacking that all down. Now that does leave a line back here, but I'm okay with that. If you're not okay with that, then you may need to shorten the binding width or figure out a different method that works for you. I used this technique on my Scrapberry gingham quilt, and I loved how it turned out, so I'm doing it again. Now let's see what that looks like. Now I'm right up against my magnet where I need to be. Here's my beautiful ScrapBee Summer Citrus quilt. Now I'm so sorry about the lighting for this shot, but it's kind of getting dark out and I don't have good lighting, but I finally finished this quilt up and I have to get it edited and out to you all, so it is what it is. This quilt was major fun. I had so much fun free motion quilting all of these Paisley feathers. You can see all the little bees everywhere. There's just so much to look at on this quilt. I did my roses in the border of the green gingham. Another one for the history books, folks. All right, friends. This one wore me out, no doubt about it, but I love it, just like all my other quilts. Until next time on the Sewing Channel, take care.